All right, everyone, welcome to the Franchise Empire newsletter. Today, we are going to talk about a few different franchise options for you guys. We're going to talk about a low-cost resale for less than $100,000. We don't ever really put like turnaround lower-cost resales on here, so I thought this might be something you guys would be interested in. And we'll talk about a breakdown of one of the largest franchises you've never heard of, which is Servpro, or you've heard of them, but maybe didn't know it was a franchise. And we'll dive into them, how much money they make, how much they cost to get started, all that good stuff. And then we have some other content and information to share that I think would be helpful for you along your franchise journey. And before we get into that, I just have something real quick. All right. If you're new here, my name is Tarek Johnson. I am the CEO and founder of Franchise Empire, and I'm here with our head of brokerage, Mr. Mark Magerman. Good to see you, Mark.
You too, Tarek. It's funny. With Servpro, I was just going to make a comment. You've heard of them, but if you've heard of them, it's not a good thing because they're a restoration business, right? So if you have Servpro come to your house, you've had a flood or a catastrophe. So if you haven't heard about Servpro, then God bless you. You're doing okay.
Right? Yeah, probably a good thing.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, let's dive into it. So our featured resale for the week is in the DFW area in Texas. I was looking at some interesting data from a report that came out around where the highest demographics of where franchise buyers and new entrepreneurs come from, and it's overwhelmingly from Texas and Florida.
No doubt.
Yeah, which is pretty cool. I don't know that we've really tracked or created a demographic report on the folks that have bought through us, but that would be interesting to look at.
I don't know that we have, but I tell you, you don't have to have a report to know that those areas are the hardest areas to find available territory because of the popularity, which is another reason why this resale might be a wonderful opportunity for somebody to get into an area that's typically relatively more difficult than some other areas. So good timing on this resale, that's for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a really good point, actually. Well, just the high level of it. This is the high level information that we have. Of course, if you're interested in the specific resale, you can reach out to us. Let me put up the way that you guys can do that. But the information that we do have, this is a home improvement business. The asking price is only $70,000, ladies and gentlemen. That is probably lower. I can almost guarantee that that's lower than what it would be to start the business from scratch if you were buying a brand new franchise territory.
Probably half.
Yeah.
Probably half. And again, that means for 70 grand, you are running that business day one. What a wonderful opportunity. But keep in mind, I know you'll get to this, Tarek, it's a lower revenue business and it's most likely a turnaround opportunity. It could very well not be profitable for that level of investment. Just keep that in mind.
Yeah, 100%. Well, the business has trailing 12-month revenue of $252,000. And yeah, so let's dive into that, Mark. So when you say, tell us more about that and why something would be priced this low and what that means to be a turnaround opportunity and why would someone be interested in something like that?
But it's a great point. And again, we're privy to lots of information in our day-to-day on the value of these. It's a home service business, home improvement business. So we know that the ballpark for those home service businesses are between, say, $180,000 and $300,000 all in. So when I see 70,000 asking price, it triggers that it's about half. And again, typically the average unit volume in a home service business should be maybe between $700,000 and $1 million on average. So when you see 252 last 12 months, you know that that's behind the run rate of $1 million or an $800,000 business. Again, none of this is necessarily bad. It could be the first year they're operating. It could be they had some reasons why they couldn't operate it full time, which is why they're selling it. So I wouldn't really pay any attention to that trailing 12-month revenue number because I think it's just a number. But I would definitely pay attention to the fact that this sounds like a business that may be a bit distressed and that the owners need to get out of it. and it may be a wonderful opportunity. But again, if it's only doing $252,000, then not a lot of juice left to squeeze for, there's not going to be a lot left over just because of that number. And again, we know the way these businesses are run. We know the costs associated with them. So that's why I'm making the comment. I don't have any I don't have any facts on this particular business. It's more of a general question because we're really intimate about the industries.
Yeah. Yeah. And, I don't know that this is like the best analogy, but well, starting with, piggybacking on your point, which is that if because businesses are typically priced for a multiple of their profits, oftentimes when you have a business that either isn't showing profit or is showing that it's losing money, it could be a great opportunity, but you get to buy it at a steep discount. Kind of like how if you buy a brand new car, it immediately depreciates a significant amount. I mean, the car's not any different. It has 10 miles on it, 15 miles, but the fact that you just bought it from the dealership and drove it off the lot, it's depreciated. And, I think for the right individual, oftentimes, Mark, we get people in meetings that say, I want to buy resale because I want to buy something that can already replace my income.
Mm-hmm.
But you and I had this conversation recently, I think, where people miss the mark and where there's a lot of upside opportunity for the right individual that's willing to roll their sleeves up are some of these turnarounds where there might be one or two employees already in the business. There's some momentum. There's some reviews already on Google or whatever the sites that they're on. They've already had some customers, maybe get some referrals, and someone who wants to come in and work hard and go full time might be able to have a quicker ramp up than if they started and bought a brand new franchise territory from scratch.
No question. And again, I would guess here, just because the asking price is so low, and like I was saying earlier, probably 50%, if not more, of the initial amount they've invested in that business. This also sounds like it could be a scenario where they got to get out relatively quickly. Personal situation may have come up. I don't know. I'm not making any conjecture on that. But for that low price of a sale price, the rule of thumb that I would have gone by would be, let's run this business. Let's do the greatest job we can over the next year. Let's get that trailing 12-month revenue as high as we can, get our profit level as high as we can, then we'll turn around and sell it. So the fact that they didn't leads me to conclude that this may be a really ripe turnaround opportunity for that right person. But you're right, Tarek. Please, if you're looking into this, you should really make sure you're running in there, rolling up your sleeves and getting involved personally, at least in that first year to get the maximum return on that relatively simple investment.
Yeah. And about 2 years ago, we had an individual who had been working with our team and looked at some new franchise opportunities and just, it just kind of fizzled out and he was just kind of going a different direction. And then our team then, found out that there was a resale in the area that he lived, in the market that he lived, reached out to him and said, hey, there's this resale. And it was only selling for basically like a similar price, $60,000, $70,000. And the story behind that one was the person who owned that business owned multiple businesses and basically wasn't giving the franchise business the attention it deserved. So surprise, surprise, the business was not doing great. I think it was a similar situation where it was doing somewhere around $200,000, $300,000 a year in revenue. And so our client winds up buying it, and he's a hustler. He's got a sales driven mentality. And when I say hustler, like he works hard, right? Like he's willing to get his hands dirty. And within 18 months, he had 2.5x the revenue of the business just from him being hands-on and being a full-time operator of the business. That particular business was a painting business. So he wasn't out there doing the painting, but he was the one making sure they were getting the right amount of leads, going to the in-home sales consultations and actually closing the deals, and then making sure that he had his contractors set up to actually do the work and to do the painting. So just kind of like share a real life example of something like this.
Yeah.
A couple other points outside of what Mark and I have talked about already. So number one, although we list it as confidential, if you were interested in this specific one, if you wanted to find out more, what I can share with you at a high level is this franchisor is a very established brand that has a very strong documented track record of success with their franchisees. I can say that. We already talked about that. This is an opportunity for a hands-on operator and experienced leader. So you've had experience hiring, firing, managing people. And the other note is that, and this is a assumption on my part, but I'm pretty sure would be correct, which is that this would not be eligible for SBA financing. In order for you to get SBA financing on a resale, typically the business has to show that it's producing enough cash flow to support the loan payment. And I'm, again, making the assumption that at a $70,000 purchase price and only $250,000 in revenue, that's not the case. So you can still use ROBS, rollover business startup, using a retirement account, HELOC cash, unsecured loans, lots of other funding options available. Anything else to add on that, Mark?
No, and again, on the resale, SBA would actually probably look for 2, if not 3 years of successful financial results. So this business obviously won't have that. So I think you're absolutely right on that assessment. But again, there's a lot of other ways to finance. But as I say ad nauseum each time we meet, it's really in your best interest to have a conversation with a lender, get yourself pre-approved before you reach out to the franchise seller. It'll just give you a way better opportunity to move forward if they already know you're qualified financially. But yeah, I think this is not an SBA deal. I agree.
Yeah, for sure. All right, guys. Well, we're going to move on to the franchise of the week that we're going to cover. But if you're looking at this and you say, "Hey, I'm in the DFW area. I'm interested. I'd like to learn more about this specific resale," then you can go to franchiseempire.com/resales. You'll be able to put in your info, schedule a call with Mark or someone else on our team. Or if you're just thinking, "Hey, I'm interested in a resale in general, and I'd like to know if there are any available in my area or market," and happy to talk to you as well.
Yeah, I guess I'll say one other thing on that, and it kind of came from a conversation I had with a candidate earlier today. The advantage of coming through Franchise Empire on resales is that we can absolutely verify on the quality, on the caliber of the brands that are offering these resales. If you want to use a third-party source that's really just a listing source for some of these resales, a lot of these listings would be franchises that we're not familiar with, that we don't have a track record with. So again, the advantage of using Franchise Empire or someone like us on these resales is we have that knowledge on these brands and give our stamp of approval on those brands, which I think is very important that sometimes people don't take advantage of.
Yeah, it's a good point. And to add to that, and we have a team of brokers who have all at some point in their career personally dealt with and experienced being involved in franchise resales. Mark exited his 13 Five Guys locations that he owned. I exited my 2 franchise locations. I know Laura and Matt has. Chris, of course, was on the franchisor side of things, so I'm sure he was involved in some way. So we've been there, done that, which is helpful when, you're like, "Hey, I'm getting ready to go on this trail. Wouldn't it be helpful to have a tour guide that's like, 'Oh yeah, I've been on that trail a bunch of, Chris and I just played in a charity golf tournament today, and one of the guys in our foursome is a member at the golf course.' So literally the whole time he's like, 'Oh yeah, you're going to want to hit it here. You're going to not want to be behind the green here. You're going to want to miss short.'" And it was fantastic having him, in our foursome, being able to tell us like what we needed to do on the holes. It makes all the difference in the world.
It does, and I don't want to make it sound like we're selling people on the benefit on why they should use us, but if
we
you
are.
I am, yeah,
because we're good.
If you are a professional and you get a new job and it requires you to relocate your family from Massachusetts to Ohio, and you're moving out to Ohio, probably the first thing you're going to do is find out who's a really good realtor out there. You're probably not going to start looking for homes on your own, right? You're probably just not going to. So it's the same thing with us. We are experts at not only helping you find franchises, but affiliating ourselves with A+ rated franchise brands. So, and I'm saying this because I had a conversation with somebody earlier this morning, and he had tried to go do this on his own, and he just got all tied up in knots, and luckily didn't lose his life savings, but just didn't know his left from his right because he was trying to do this all on your own. And it's not a business. If you haven't bought a business before or a franchise before, it's not that simple. That you really should benefit from somebody who's got the experience. And not for nothing, we're free. We don't cost any money. So it's a no-brainer to use us. So I'll get off my soapbox now, but that's my little pitch for the afternoon, Tarek.
Yeah, I like it. One last thing, and then we'll move on, is that I almost forgot to mention. So all of our clients, we give them access to a proprietary online training curriculum on how to vet and do due diligence on franchises, and basically what to do to make sure that you're, making a good decision and buying with confidence. And one of the modules and trainings is all around how to buy resale and due diligence around it.
Yep.
So it's something that's unique. If just a general person in the public cannot get access to it, it's literally proprietary, and it's for our clients only. So I think that's also super helpful because resales the reality is they're more complicated than buying a new territory.
No question.
All right. Look at that picture of Mr. Matthew McConaughey. That not a picture. I guess that would be a GIF. Do they call them GIFs or they call them GIFs? I never know which one is correct.
I think GIF, but I'm probably not the right guy to know that either.
All right. Do you want to tell us about Austin?
Yeah. So Austin was working. Austin and his wife Tara came to Franchise Empire, and very luckily for them, got assigned to Laura Pfeiffer, who's one of our brokers, who's just fantastic. And I think if I was going to be buying a franchise, I'd probably want to go through Laura before I went through me, to be honest with you. She's very good. Anyway, Austin was stuck in the same rut that so many of our candidates are stuck in, which is working 60 to 65 hours a week for a major airline with not a lot of upside and not a lot of satisfaction in his career. He knew it was time for a change. He wanted more control over his time, his future. His family was getting older. His kids were getting older. He wanted to find that path forward. So he did a really smart thing, which it sounds simple, but a lot of people don't. He consulted his wife, smart idea, and together they realized that this could be a really good opportunity for their family. So they wanted to explore business ownership, specifically franchising, something they could scale over time, something that was impactful and maybe give back to the community, and something that could last to the point where they could sell it for lots of money or maybe even pass it down as a legacy. That was their goal. And again, we spent a lot of time with these guys trying to find out what they were trying to accomplish. So they were looking for a franchise that offered community need, unique service, and smart technology integration, which are three very important things to be looking for. And just as importantly, they wanted something they could scale over time and pass to their children, as we just said. So with Laura's help, they officially started the road to freedom, flexibility, and legacy. They entered into the Franchise Empire portal. We guided them through the process. And this is Laura's quote. They came in with clarity and drive, knew what they wanted for his family, and it was an honor to help them find the right fit to make it happen. So congratulations. The point here is it is a round of applause. We can only help the people, Tarek, who want the help, right? If people want to not give us information and not share their goals, then it's going to be harder to find it. It's more like you're kind of shooting it in the dark. But these guys came in, knew exactly what they wanted. Laura took the time to work with them, probably sent them several different brands, of which were all in the same ballpark. And again, we don't like to share brands here at this weekly meeting, but I'll tell you, they're happily going on. I think they bought multiple units, if I'm not mistaken, and now they're well on their way to the goal of Austin and his wife Tara, and we can't be happier for them.
Yeah, congratulations to them. What's interesting, Mark, in the Thursday meeting with our franchise pros, Nikita had mentioned that there was, and I think he was a little bit of an older individual, which, okay, that I don't know why that's significant, but he was grumbling about the fact, this came from Nikita, that that we have them do a behavioral assessment, the Zoracle. And he's like, well, I don't want to do, and I told the team not to call it a personality test and call it a behavioral assessment instead, because
Right.
I can see how personality tests can sound funny.
Right.
And we just chatted about it and, really emphasized the point that, well, that's part of the thoroughness of our process. I mean, there are certain franchise brands that will not align well with your skill set and your overall personality style and behavior style. And there are ones that do. So like, why wouldn't you want to spend 10 minutes to take something that's going to weed out opportunities that may not align with the way that you're wired as a human being? And as you know, there are a lot of franchise brokers and consultants that do not use the Zoracle profile assessment. But I've always, in any meetings that I've had, I've always gotten really good feedback from individuals that are working with, like, oh, that was really interesting. Yeah, I really liked seeing the results of that. And I thought that was pretty interesting.
Yeah, not only that, but I've worked with people who they even say, I learned something about myself that I didn't know, which is fantastic. And again, the only reason we ask is, and again, don't take this the wrong way, anybody, but whoever our candidate is, I couldn't care less if I know about your behavioral profile or not. It doesn't matter to me. But if you want to find a franchise and you want to do it right, the more you know about yourself, the more you share with us on what those goals are and what your skills are, the more likelihood we are to find something for you. So it really comes down to how serious are the candidates when they approach us. And those that are really serious usually dive all over this stuff, Tarek, because it's tremendously value and it's a service that we're providing at no charge to these people. So again, you kind of had me at hello, right? You're giving me great information from people who've done it before. You're not charging me for it. And it's all geared to help us help you better. Tell me the downside of that.
Yep. Guys, if you're watching this and you want to, I don't have the link or right with me off the top of my hand. I'll see if I can find it when we move on to the next thing. But if you guys want to take the Zoracle, that behavioral assessment, it's specific for franchise buyers. We pay for it. So like this service we pay for, you can take it for free, get the results for free. Shoot us an email at info@franchiseempire.com and say, hey, I'd like to take the Zoracle assessment, and we'll make sure to send you the link and you can take it and get the results. And there's no catch or gotcha to that. You'll be able to learn some about yourself.
Yes.
All right, let's talk about Servpro. So Servpro, if you're not familiar, you may have seen their, I think, orange and green vans and trucks. They are a cleaning, restoration, and construction company, as Mark mentioned, typically dealing with water damage, fire damage, stuff like that. So if you've never heard of them, probably a good thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
We'll talk about how they got started, and then we'll dive into any of the metrics that they disclose in their franchise disclosure document as well. But in 1967, that's how long they've been around, Ted and Doris opened a small painting business in California. And 2 years later, they noticed something big. The real money wasn't in painting walls. It was in cleaning and restoration. So they pivoted, and Servpro transformed from painting brushes to flood pumps, from fresh coats to fire damage recovery. And just 2 years later, in 1969, they began franchising, and that decision changed everything. What's interesting is I have a buddy of mine who built his own fire and water restoration company from scratch. 10 years later, he exited it for a significant amount of money. And similar thing there. Him and his wife started out doing carpet cleaning and tile cleaning, and then realized that the big money and financial opportunity was in the restoration space. Mark, do you know anyone in your I know you know a lot of business owners. Do you know some people that are in the space?
I do.
Yeah,
I do. Tremendously lucrative, very high volume, very high revenue business. And the beautiful thing about it is, unfortunately, you're working with people at their worst, right? Where they're having catastrophic things happen to their home, but it's a tremendously valuable service. And I know the person that I know who's been in the restoration business, not only is he making a lot of money, but it's very rewarding business. And again, he did it right. He scaled his business. He's not going into anybody's homes with his hip boots on and cleaning out the water. He's managing and running his business, but again, lucrative from a business owner standpoint. Giving back to the community is the other end of it, and providing a tremendous value to the homeowners in the community as a result.
Yeah, that is a good point. You really are helping people through a really stressful time, typically. And by the way, as we go through this, Servpro, because they've been around for 50, 60 years now, they pretty much you're not going to find open territory with them. We do have, I'd say, a good 5 or 6 quality restoration brands, different restoration brands in our portfolio. And again, you might go, well, how would you be able to distinguish like which one or two would work for me? And it's like, that's where something like the Zoracle plays a part. Outside of territory availability, we could think a brand's perfect for you, but if your territory is not available, it's not available. But because there are some more in the emerging brand space where they're a little bit more dynamic and are good for a type of individual and personality style, right? And there are some that are more legacy brands, established in the way they do things. There's not as much flexibility, and that's good for a certain personality style, right? What's your take on that, Mark? And we have multiple brands in a category of figuring out which one is right for the person.
Yeah, I think the skeptic would say, why do you have 6 restoration brands if one can't be better than the other if you have that many of them? And that's absolutely not the case. If all we had was Servpro, we would never have any opportunity to offer candidates opportunity because there's no territory availability. So we meaning Franchise Empire, we have a lot of experience. We've worked with all these brands over the years. We know the leadership. We know their commitment to excellence on the franchisee network. So we're going to add brands in those because we know it's a very lucrative category. We know a lot of candidates want to get into this space. So we know the 5 or 6 best brands. That's what we'd be introducing to our candidates. And again, I think it's the major reason why they should come to us for our professional guidance. If you Googled show me restoration businesses, it would list you 25 or 30 restoration franchises, but it wouldn't do anything about ranking them or talking about the bullet points or what's good about them or not. Those are the things that we know.
Yeah. So by 1979, Servpro had grown so fast, it acquired 175 other franchisees and eventually relocated its headquarters to I think that means Gatlin, Tennessee, isn't it? Anyways, maybe that Gallatin is an area too. So interesting. Is this saying that they bought another franchise system? Is that how you're understanding that, Mark?
I think they bought at least one other system. I think they brought, it sounds like to me, they brought several other franchises from a bunch of different non-set up brands and then said, hey, we'll give you the luxury and the benefit of being part of our family. I think if that's how I read it, it was ingenious. Talk about getting 175 franchise owners under one roof. But yeah, that's what I bet it was. I bet it was either smaller franchises that hadn't quite set up or ones that had started and maybe didn't have enough stamina. Very interesting. And if we're right, that's ingenious on their part.
Yeah. Interesting. Well, today, guys, Servpro has over 2,300 franchises. So again, why we say there's no territory availability with this 2,300 franchises. I would just go out on a limb to say that's probably in the top 0.01% of franchises in terms of size and scope.
I would agree.
It's rare that a service brand has over 2,000 franchise locations. Common more with food, but again, they've been around for
I was going to say almost 50 years now. So you can grow fast in 50 years. And I'm guessing the first several they were the only game in town as well.
Yeah. All right, so let's talk about some of the numbers. Again, 2,300 units. Total investment ranges from $258,000 to $379,000. They've got a $49,000 franchise fee. The royalty is 3 to 10%. That's typically on a it goes down a graduating scale based on your revenue. So the more revenue you produce, the lower royalty fee that you pay. And their marketing fee is 3%, which is a little bit on the higher side, but I'm pretty sure Servpro runs commercials and does some pretty aggressive marketing stuff where you probably get the value out of that. I always tell people, okay, if you see something that shows higher than normal fees in an FTD, the most important question you want to ask is, what do you get for that? And there may be some brands where it's just like you don't get enough. And there's some where it's like, again, food brands, you're often paying 4 or 5% in marketing fees. But I mean, every billboard you look at, they're on commercials everywhere. So you get value, out of that marketing fee.
I'd add one other thing to that. And I hate when they call it a marketing fee, because that just reeks of, that's an expense in my business. It's a fee you're charging me. The reality of it is, if you want to be successful in any business, marketing is an investment you make in your business. It's a line item of your investments. And when I get candidates who talk to me for the first time or the second time, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm not interested, Mark. They're making me pay 3% out of my revenue just for marketing." And I ask them, I'm like, "Well, let me ask you this: if they said there's no marketing fee, you don't have to pay us for any marketing, but they're not going to give you any marketing either, would that be a better scenario for you?" And they pause, they scratch their head, and they're like, "I don't think so." I'm like, "Oh, then what are we really talking about here?" So if you don't have the stomach to understand the value in marketing your business, then you probably aren't going to end up as a franchise owner. But 3%, yeah, that's a little high. They tend to be between 1 to 2, but that's how I would look at it, Tarek. I'd be like, all right, 3%. First question I'd ask, why is it 3 and not 2? And what am I getting for that extra percentage? And again, they've got 2,300 franchise owners. So they've obviously been given pretty good answers, because 2,300 people aren't all idiots.
Yeah. That is quite a lot of people. Unfortunately, guys, this is not something that we can control, but Servpro, for whatever reason, has decided to not disclose any franchisee financial performance. So you can see here, straight out of their FDD, we do, and I love that Allie highlighted this like that. Thank you, Allie, for doing that. That was very helpful. We do not make any representations about a franchisee's future financial performance or the past financial performance of company-owned or franchise outlets. Mark, this is an interesting and a highly debatable topic when brands do not show something in the item 19. What's your take on it? Especially because you would, like, my natural default is that they got something to hide or that the numbers aren't good. But then you say, hey, they got 2,300 franchisees or franchise units. What are your thoughts?
I guess my thoughts are this. Yes, normally you'd be skeptical. What are they hiding? And I don't think they're hiding anything, honestly, with 2,300 franchise owners. I think they probably have reached a level of, I'm not sure if arrogance is the right word, but certainly confidence. Because at the end of the day, anybody that's going to be interested in getting involved in a brand like this, you're still going to have the opportunity to validate with other franchise owners. So you're still going to have an opportunity to talk to people about what their revenue numbers are. But they probably are saying to themselves, we have 2,300 locations, right? If we really have to show people on a list of how much revenue our franchisees are doing, then maybe they're not qualified candidates anyway. I don't know that I agree with that, but that's probably what it is. 'Cause I've never seen anything like this. I've never seen a brand that have that many locations that aren't. You would think the opposite, that they would be very proud of that document to help. But, and again, there are some brands, and these guys might be one, maybe they're not really looking at expanding that much anymore. Maybe they're really not looking at bringing in new franchise owners, because I would be willing to bet, Tarek, that at some point in time they disclosed an item 19.
Yeah, definitely. At some point they did. Yeah, it's interesting because you have a brand that doesn't disclose in their item 19, and I think they do it to not show that the numbers aren't good, is Subway. And
Right.
I think Subway at one point had 20,000 locations, and over a 3-year stretch, 30% or 35% of their stores closed down. So I would say that's one where it's like, okay, like that's they're trending in the wrong direction, which is why I think they don't want to show the numbers. But yeah, I think all of your comments are spot on here. Maybe my initial instinct would say they don't want any competitors, because this is public. Franchise disclosure documents are public information. So maybe they think, hey, we don't want our competitors to be able to compare against our earnings or anything like that. Or, I don't know, but I think it's very interesting that
It
with
is. And I
2,300
also, I
locations.
wonder if do they have an item 7? Like, do they have the costs that are involved if you decide you want to acquire it? It could be that they don't have that either. I don't know. I'd have to go look.
Yeah, they do, because that's the item 7 is the total investment, right?
All right. So they do.
Yeah.
Just because they list the total investment doesn't mean they actually have it item 7 either. Because I don't know. That's what I just don't know. But this is interesting. And I'd like to do a little homework on it after we're done to see if I can find out any reason why. Because it's just not typical. Because 9%, 9 out of every 10 people that we work with, one of the first things they want to see is that item 19 before they go forward at all.
Yeah. And to be fair, if I'm buying a franchise and you are not disclosing financial information in your item 19, I'm not happy about it. And to me, it's at that point, I can't come up with any other conclusions. The skeptic in me can't come up with any great conclusions other than if you're in the business of highlighting your investment, because that's basically what you have, is this investment opportunity. If you were proud of what the investment yields, wouldn't you want to show it? Imagine going to invest in a mutual fund or an index fund that's been around 50 years, and they're like, yeah, we won't tell you any of our past performance. You'd be like, what?
Yeah.
Like,
I hear you. My gut reaction is this is not a good thing, right? I can't think of a really good reason to not have your item 19. I can't think of one.
Yeah.
Unless you're hiding something and your brand is horrendous. But I'm going to guess 2,300 Servpro franchisees around North America are not all sitting there lamenting that they made the worst investment of their lives. So it's a head scratcher to me, Tarek.
Yeah. Yeah. Likewise. We'll settle on that, ladies and gentlemen. That's the best we got for you.
We'll settle on. We have no idea, but
yeah,
it's not a good thing.
Hopefully enjoyed the banter back and forth, though, just talking through it. Well,
although this wasn't even banter, we agreed. It's good if we have something that you and I can disagree on. That would be fun.
Yeah. Well, guys, I can tell you that I don't know that there's. I'm highly doubtful that there is, but I don't think we recommend. Mark, do we recommend any brands to people that don't have an item 19? I would imagine 98% of ours do, right?
They do. And then every once in a while, you get a brand that comes out and says they are not a franchise. They are a business opportunity, and therefore they don't have those. A couple of our vending machine brands, for example, Tarek, fall into that category. Yep. So they don't have a item 19. There's no such thing. They're not ever going to presume,
because they don't have do they have an FDD in that instance? The business?
No, that's what I mean. They don't have an FDD either. As a business opportunity. But the reason this is a head scratcher is I was under the impression if you were a franchise, you're legally. Oh no, so I'm sorry. These guys have an FDD. They just don't have the item 19 within the FDD, right? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they have the item 19. They just just say we don't make any representations. Yeah, they don't list any earnings.
Yeah, no, very, very strange. And honestly, if I was guiding a candidate and the brand said we're not making our item 19 available, I would probably tell that candidate to pivot and find something else to look at. Honestly.
Yeah. So if that's you listening, watching, whatever, and you're thinking, hey, I'd like to have a conversation around what are some brands that have some strong item 19s, meaning they show the proper sales to investment ratio, and they show that there's proven and documented track records of owners out there that are producing respectable sales results. Basically, if you want to know which franchises are making money and you want to talk to someone about it, you can reach out to our team. We can see what territories are available, what franchises are available in the territories you want based on your goals, your skill sets, your personal situation, etc. you can do that by going to franchiseempire.com /check territory.
Yeah. Or if there's anybody listening who is a Servpro franchise owner, I'd love to talk to you as well. Give us a ring.
Yeah. Mark at franchiseempire.com, MARC.
Please.
All right. Last but not least, our most recent episode of the Zero to Profitable Franchise podcast, which we do post as a video on YouTube, and it also is available on podcast platforms. Should you quit your job to start a franchise? And this is a very popular topic that comes up and question that comes up for folks. So this is a video of me, Mark, and Chris on our team talking about this conversation from our perspective. So definitely go watch it. I think you would enjoy it a lot if it's something that you're thinking about, like, hey, do I want to buy a franchise? Hey, do I want to get another job? Do I want to quit my job? If you're kind of in that middle ground mentally of trying to figure out your next step, just hearing our perspective and thoughts on it, I think would probably be very helpful for you.
Agreed.
And then the next one is we did a review on a tool truck franchise, Snap-on Tools. That one was fun to make. I think you'll find it interesting. So you can see this and the other one on our Franchise Empire YouTube channel, as well as look up the Zero to Profitable Franchise podcast on any podcast platforms. You'll be able to either watch it on YouTube on the Franchise Empire channel, or you can listen to it on podcast platforms. Outside of that, that's what we got for you this week. Mark, anything else on your mind before we wrap?
No, just I guess I'll just make the last comment. When I was discussing those non-franchises, the business opportunities, I didn't mention that I should have. If it's a question, you're not going to pay royalties. You're not. They're not going to have an FDD or an item 19 available, but you also aren't going to be paying them ongoing royalties because they're not a franchise. They're a business opportunity. In case I confused people with that, I just wanted to correct that.
Yeah. Well, that would be a good separate video to break down, like, because that's basically it's basically a licensing opportunity, right?
Pretty much exactly what that is. Yes.
Yeah, that'll be a good video for us, actually.
It would.
Cool. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next week. Mark, thanks for doing this.
Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thanks. Bye.